Hello everyone, this is Emrak Deniz. Welcome to SGN Show. And yes, it's been a long time, but finally be back with super exciting topic, AI for surveying or reality capture. And I have Dominique from Looq AI. That is company producing some AI solutions, especially in geospatial industry. So welcome Dominique. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me here today. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, that's a pleasure to me also. Okay, let's dive into the topic because I'm really excited to hear more about at first as a survey engineer. But first, tell me about yourself. Who is Dominic and what does he do?
Yeah, so I have a background in computer science and computer vision. Got my PhD at University of California, San Diego, where I was building camera systems for robotics and self-driving vehicles. And as I was going through grad schools, I had to pay the bills. And that's where I had the opportunity to do some consulting in the geospatial industry. So what I saw was that there is this need to do better 3D capture for large scale surveying from the ground. And that's exactly where I was like, oh, well, I should use some of the knowledge of how we can build cameras and AI for robotics, for self-driving vehicles into the geospatial industry. So in 2021, we founded the company and we were excited about bringing this new way of digitizing the world using just cameras. So that's exactly where Looq started and where we have come a long way since.
Of course, we know that all kind of industry has many opportunities to improve their workflows by AI. And surveying industry also has. If you look at the construction perspective, how it's looking from your side in this industry, what is the opportunity if you think AI perspective?
Yeah, so I think the construction industry is beautiful in regards that it's very human-centered, right? We care about processes that involve humans. We care about operations that affect humans, and we're building things for humans, right? And because of that, I think it's incredibly important to be able to build technology, which includes AI, that is human-centered, right? In the ways that it helps day-to-day operations on sites, in the way that it helps streamline transparency between construction agencies and asset owners. And then also for the end user, right? Because the largest cost of any asset is actually after it's built. It's the operational component. And that's where Looq is really focused, right? So as we develop AI, right, in this construction industry, I always like to think is how can we help people? How can we save some amount of time on a daily basis? Because we know certain folks are doing repetitive, sometimes dangerous tasks. And that's exactly where you want to come in with a technology and solution that helps them operate more efficiently. It helps them save time. And then for the business, it saves money, right? It improves transparency. It builds trust. And that's really an all-encompassing way to look at the impact that this technology can have in this industry.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. And how about surveyors? Which pain points? Actually, you mentioned now some human-centered workflow they have already, but which pain points can be resolved easily by using AI integrated solutions? Can you give us some examples, and if you have any real examples?
Yeah, I'll start off high level and dive into a bit of a use study on how some of our surveyors use it today and where they see the value. Right, so survey is generally burdened by the complicated and very difficult task of aligning to local coordinate systems, to coordinate systems set out by counties, by cities, by states, by countries. And it involves finding monuments, referencing sample data into that coordinate system. It involves being in the field for long hours, right? You have to set up control, you have to survey it in, you have to use total stations, differential GPS, and all of that.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it's still a very manual, right? Like you always have to do these manually. You have to go to the field, take your survey tripod, set up the instrument, survey it in, right? And that for site takes hours and hours and hours, right? With Looq's technology, what a surveyor can do is set up their control if they need it, and literally walk around. And within minutes, they can capture the space to a degree of accuracy and completeness that allows them to do what we call a digital survey, right? So instead of having to be in the field to take those measurements, this process is then automated in the back-end office, right? So that they can make sure that the data they need is correct and easily extractable. And they have shifted what is a multi-hour process into a few minutes in the field. Why does that matter, right? So let's use an example here. So we have a number of surveyors that use this for topographic applications. So let's say electric vehicle charging installations. So anytime a company goes out and builds an EV site, right, they need to do an as-built, survey as-built of the site before the construction begins. And sometimes it's an urban environment, sometimes it's like a little bit more rural. But a surveyor, right, will spend on average 1 to 2 days for large EV charging sites, right, and then maybe a half a day to a day for the slightly smaller ones. But the big problem is that it's very manual. It's very, very manual, and sometimes they're standing in the middle of the road to collect points because they need to have some mark out that's captured, or they need to have top of curb, bottom of curb, which puts them at risk. Right, surveyors standing on the road is a very common and a very dangerous thing, and sadly, many lives are lost every year due to surveyors being hit on the road. So with Looq, what they are able to do is, instead of spending all that time on the road, instead of spending so much time in the fields, they can walk on the sidewalk, right, and be able to capture that information, which then reconstructs into the 3D model they use for the deliverable. And not only does it save time, but it improves the output deliverable, right? So traditionally, you will just see your topographic map as your, in PDF format to your client. Nowadays, the standard is becoming that you will also provide a point cloud, a classified 3D geolocated point cloud. You will also provide imagery, right? That imagery allows your client to then be able to go into the field and say, hey, this is where we are going to connect our EV charging to the grid. This is a transformer, the substation that we're going to tap into. This is where we see a risk factor, right? We need to call up this other utility to make sure we can dig underground and make sure we don't hit any gas lines. So all this additional information is now kind of becoming standard in the industry because it allows the survey companies to be competitive. And that's what we're really excited about, is saving them time, improving the safety, and making them unique and have a really great offering for their clients.
Yes, thanks you for explaining. And also, I'm wondering how your AI processor working and detecting the objects. And also, want to know that, is it possible to define any other objects, such as electricity lines and some vegetables maybe? Is it possible to upgrade after having something like this product?
Yeah, so our AI is very capable in understanding the geometry, right? And that's what we are really pride ourselves in, is the quality of the outputs. But beyond that, to achieve that quality, we need to have an understanding of what is there. So what you're talking about is the object detection and segmentation part within the scene. So what we do is, every time the camera is moved around, the camera and the AI will understand what is in the scene. Is it a power pole? Is it a power line? Is it a tree?
Yeah.
And from there, our AI will say, okay, well, now we're going to optimize the geometry for that object to make sure the quality is good. But it also gives us intelligence around it, right? So let's say you are imaging a power pole for a utility, let's say a transmission pole, and you're trying to look at clearances to vegetation. You're trying to look at the sag, how much the wire actually droops over the length of the span. And those things you can very quickly automate using the AI. And that's exactly where Looq is positioning ourselves, right? Like, we are an AI first company, so we care about automating workflows past the 3D. Everyone can provide point clouds. Not everyone can provide intelligence from those point clouds, from the 3D, from those images. So our AI is very capable, and as we continue growing as a company, we're incredibly focused about serving downstream applications, automating, end to end. How do we do a full as-built of a full distribution circuit, right, for a utility? How do we begin automating the extraction of different features within topographic survey? All of those are incredibly critical as we continue growing the company and as we serve this industry. They can really leverage the power of AI and the Looq solution.
Yeah, thank you. I think also there's a big opportunity to improve the next level, the construction or surveying. And yes, I totally agree with you. Our works process is really human-centered, and they are doing everything one by one in the field. And that's perfect to hear something like these solutions. And yes, thank you for explaining. And do you want to add something for before closing?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing in the geospatial industry is trust on accuracies, trust on quality of the data, trusting on the equipment. And I think what we've seen is that it's always up to the user to kind of trust and test the technology themselves. And that's something we uphold very carefully at Looq. You know, I always say, don't believe anything I say. Don't believe our accuracies. Test it out for yourself, right? Because the only way you are going to build the confidence in the technology that we have built. And the result is normally that people love it, right? It's that it allows them to see that, hey, now there is a different way of capturing the data that allows us to do it better and actually allows us to do it faster and cheaper. And that's really where we come in, right? So it's building the trust through transparency for our human-centered, environment, for our industry, for our society. So we're beyond excited to be bringing this technology to the market, and we encourage everyone to reach out and find out more about our product and our technology and see how it can help them.
Yeah, well, thank you, and nice to having you, Dominique. Thank you very much
so
again.
Henry. Thank you.
Bye.